Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Gay with God podcast, a safe place for us to share our stories and support one another. How long did we know? What challenges did we face? Did we lose our faith? When did we find our way back home? Or are we still searching? The stories you hear on this podcast will melt your heart and strengthen your belief that in God, all things are possible, and you can be authentically gay with the God of your understanding. I am your host, Midge Noble, and I am very honored that you are here. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Gay with God podcast, and I have some good potential news for you guys. I was contacted by an agent for an author, and this person is being referred to us as a guest. So I'm not going to divulge his name yet, but I will say that I'm so excited if this works out because I think he has a great story to tell, and he has told his story. He has written a book of essays, and I'm just so excited to go into conversation with him. He is a member of our LGBTQIA plus community, and I'm just excited that, somebody saw the podcast at some point and decided to pitch him as a guest, and I'm also excited, and so you'll know when I know because he'll be on the show. And if not, well, there we go. You guys can be on the show. Whichever one of you wants to sign up and request a taping, you can be on the show. So today we're talking about With God's Help, I Will. Now, if you're Episcopalian, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In our baptismal covenant, we say the words or the phrase, with God's help, I will. Whenever we're talking about, doing something for God, serving for God, being the people that we need to be for each other, with God's help, I will. Like loving your enemies. That's definitely a with God's help, I will, because we all know, especially now, a lot of us are struggling to extend compassion, kindness, love, or even really nice thoughts to some people in this country. And so it is our covenant that we will continue to strive to do better, to try to hit the mark in generosity and love and compassion. And if we can't do any of that, with God's help, please don't let me be mean. Don't let me be ugly. And don't let me fall into the same behaviors and ugliness as the people that we are so upset with. And for me, that's the target that I've set for myself right now, is to, stop laughing at things that are ugly about somebody else and to not repost the ugly things that are just cruel. I'm still being the town crier and reposting the ugliness of this regime and all of the ways it's going to hurt us. I'm just trying to be more conscious, with God's help, to not repost the memes that do make me laugh. And I'm sorry, I'm still working on that part. The reason I started thinking about with God's help, I will, is the last episode that I did for you guys, and I told you about the challenge that my beloved and I are up against. I continue to uplift my concerns to God and asking that with God's help, let me be the one that my beloved needs me to be. Now, what I haven't maybe made clear is that I'm injured. I have a neck and a shoulder injury that I have had for years. And at one point, I didn't have any insurance, and so I couldn't really get it checked because, well, they would have said, get an MRI. Well, I'm claustrophobic, and I would have said no. Or they would have said, well, yeah, you probably need surgery, and I don't have the money for that, so I would have had to say no. So what was the point of having it even checked out? So I didn't. So over the years, I've learned ways to accommodate it, work around it, or I just do things and I just know I'm going to really hurt really, really badly, but I get it done. However, my beloved and I are tag team, and we are really, really good at the strengths that we offer each other, and the things that I can't do, she can do it. The things that she can't do, I can do it. And this comes down to all sorts of things like finances, writing things, doing tasks at home, as far as, the traditional, some people do all the outside stuff and other people do all the inside stuff. Well, we're not quite that traditional because I still do help out in the yard and I do yard work with her and we both mow and all that stuff. Yet when it comes to power tools, and I know my besties are laughing, but when it comes to power tools, you better probably not hand me one. Now, I have worked an alligator saw and done really well. I am not the one, by the way, that cut the electrical cord one time. Just saying. Um, I don't use a traditional saw. I can't even get one to start, and I would be scared to death to use a traditional saw. I did the other day help with an electric screwdriver to put up a blind in our bathroom, and we tag teamed that, but she really shouldn't be climbing up on a ladder right now or a step stool, and I knew that we could do it, so I just needed to kind of step up and also get it done. And I was really proud of ourselves. We did have our besties on speed dial. And at one point, we almost thought that we were going to have to call them. And we would have. But, still there's some autonomy here. And we are stubborn. And we are going to try to do things ourselves. But as this progresses with my wife's surgery, and literally right now, there are so many things that she is limited in doing before the surgery because that could exacerbate her problem, and we don't want that. So I am doing a lot of the inside outside stuff that requires any bending, lifting of heavy things, straining her neck, and those are all the things that I would have to do in a pinch if I absolutely had to. And with her working outside of the home and me working inside the home, I was always doing a lot of that heavy lifting while she wasn't here when it needed to be done. And then when she's home, the rest of the week that she doesn't work outside the home, then she would do the heavy lifting of things so that I didn't have to and give me a break. So now, whether she's home or not home, if it comes to hauling something or lifting something or bending over, it's me. Now, I want to step up to the task. As I said last week, I want to show that I can be compassionate and loving and do what she needs to do because I love her so much. And I don't mind doing all of those things. My body, however, tends to have a problem with it. So this past weekend, we went to our beloved sacred Corgi Haven Lane cabin. And we have a mower that is absolutely amazing. He comes and he mows and he takes care of the property. We have now had 3 mowers because they kept retiring, but it's nice to be able to go up there for a short weekend and not have to spend the entire weekend mowing the property. And it's all on a incline and it's really hard to mow. And he comes up on his little mower tractor thing and he's just the nicest guy. And we've always, always appreciated him. And when Helene came through and many of our trees snapped off and broke and they didn't all just fall over, but they were, really in the way of the driveway, we took care of it as much as we could, but there was a lot of problems with some of the limbs. And so one day when he was coming up to mow, he also brought his chainsaw and he took care of a lot of that for us. We had done as much as we absolutely could, but it was just about to hurt me beyond repair. And I was helping, but I wasn't a lot of help. And so he did it. And it's still, when the leaves are on, it looks great. When the leaves come off again, we'll see all the other damage that is in the wood. The one thing that he shies away from, and I don't blame him, is mowing near the blackberry bushes. Now, when we first got Corgi Haven Lane, it had been harvested. So they had come in and taken all of the pine trees basically out. They had a logging road that had gone from the lower part of the property up to the top of the property where the cabin is. And so all the way up the driveway, there were blackberry bushes. All the way down on the lower section where we camped, there was nothing but blackberry bushes that had sprung up on this new earth that had the trees taken down. So then all of the things started growing up and all the briars and all the blackberry bushes. Now, I love blackberries and I was thrilled that we had blackberries on the property, although we didn't usually get very many of them because by the time they ripened and then we weren't camping there, and by the time we got back, all the birds and the deer ate them, which is exactly what should have happened. And we would get some every once in a while, but nature takes care of things quicker than we do. So And I'm grateful that they have little snacks, and that's fine. However, our mower, as great as he is, doesn't like to be around the blackberry bushes, and those things are just tenacious. They grow and spread like wildfire. It's just amazing how fast they pop back up. And we have cut things back and cut things back. We're still trying to leave some blackberry bushes for the animals. However, they can be really invasive. So, in order to not lose the yard space that we have down at the bottom of the property, we are trying to keep those vines cut back so that he will mow the grass that's still there. So, we're always cutting the blackberry bushes back away from the place where he mows so that he won't go wide, because that's what happens. If there's a branch out in the way, he goes around it, and then that part doesn't get mowed. If there's lots of branches there, he just cuts a new swath, and the grass is then not mowed near the bushes. So I get it. I totally get it. I wouldn't go through it either. And it's not his responsibility to get off his tractor every single time and cut that branch back. It's our responsibility. And we do it all the time. It's like an ongoing thing. So this weekend, there was a lot of weeding that needed to be done in our rocks around the cabin. I'd gotten the back part of it in one side of the cabin the last time we were there, and my beloved had started to do the little section of rocks that were next to the walkway, and I told her stop it because that wasn't something she was supposed to be doing. And so I never got back to it because I wore myself out and I couldn't go back and do anymore, because that is a lot of tugging and pulling on the crabgrass stuff, and it's just hard right now for me to do that. So this weekend I got that completed and got that done. It had rained a lot, and even though it was still hard and it hurts to pull and it strains the neck, however, I got it done. And then I walked the dogs down the driveway, and my beloved's having a hard time walking now, and it spasms up, and sometimes she can't stand up all the way. So I walked the kids down and down to the lower part of the property, and I noticed on my walk that the blackberry bushes and some of the limbs just from the trees, we have grapevines that are invasive too, and they come over the trees, and some of those things hang low. And so we're always trying to cut that back off the driveway so he doesn't have to duck on the tractor. And my truck can't make it up there if we don't do that either. So we're cutting that back, and I noticed that there are a few things were hanging low there. And then down by the bottom part where all the blackberry bushes are hanging out, it really needed to be done again. There's been so much rain up there that things are growing a lot. And so on Sunday morning, I get up and eat my breakfast, and I head down. And not only did I have to cut a lot of things down the driveway, by the time I got to the bottom, I also noticed there were other trees on the lower part of the property that were hanging low because of some vines that were weighting them down. And so I was cutting those, and then I noticed that some of the pine trees had started growing out too far, and so I was cutting some limbs off the pine trees. And then I finally got to the blackberries. And I also, along the way, kept saying, God, please help me. Help me stay strong. Help me get this done. Help me not to, give out. And I made it to the bottom part where the blackberry bushes were finally. And it took me, I bet, 4 hours to get all of that done. And my beloved kept checking in by phone, and I said I was okay, and I had my little Powerade, and I'm okay. And she kept offering for her to come down and pick me up in the car. And I said, I don't know if I'll need that or not. I'm trying to get my steps in. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So I wanted to get my steps in, and I thought this would be a great way to do it. And I fully intended to walk back up the driveway. Now, when I say that, if you've been to my property, and those of my friends who have, and you've told me you've walked it once and you're never going to walk it again, it is steep. I mean, it's not unbearably steep. There are curves in it so that it's not a straight shot up, but the elevation at the top of the property is almost 3,000 feet. And it is an altitude up there that's way different than where we live here. And I can feel that altitude really affecting how much endurance I have when I'm doing outside work up there. But I still intended to do it. I walked that driveway all the time with the dogs. The first time is really super hard to go back up. The second time is better. By the third time, I don't really feel it. However, at one point while I was working down below and I was really battling with the blackberry bushes, and there was a lot of grapevines in there now. There didn't used to be any grapevines, and now they've become so invasive. They're hanging on to everything and intertwining with the branches, and it was just really super, super hard this time. Normally, what happens is my beloved does all the cutting and I do the hauling. Sometimes I'll cut stuff and we'll work separately, and she'll do one part of the property and I'll do the other, and with like clippers, like not saws. And this time, through this whole entire process, I was doing the clipping and the hauling and the bending and the tugging and the pulling and all that. I'm not trying to whine, but maybe just a little bit. Partway through being down at the bottom, I call my wife and I say, I am going to need the car, I think, to come back up. Don't come now. I still have another section to do. Take your time, but just know I'll be calling you at some point to get assistance to come back up. And I had, like, at that point, about 6 piles of blackberry bushes and grapevines stacked up that I was going to need to then, put somewhere into the woods, which always just decomposes, and that's good. It's good. And I've actually seen the deer, once we do that, I've seen the deer come to the lower branches that we've taken off, and they'll either grab the berries that if there are some on there, or they'll start to eat the leaves of things because it's now on the ground and they don't have to look up and reach up to get it. So they enjoy that too when we prune. Anyway, I'm telling you this whole sort of story because it was really enlightening to me that from the point of pain that I normally have every day, and I have pain every day in this shoulder at this point, and I use oils, I use creams, I use heating pads, and at some point, yes, I'm going to get it checked. And I actually planned to get it checked this year, but so many other health problems popped up for me this year that it just had to keep getting pushed to the back of my plate. And then my beloved was diagnosed with this problem that she needs to have surgery for soon. The sooner the better. It wasn't urgent, but the sooner the better. So I don't know what is really wrong with my shoulder, but I really am claustrophobic, and I'd never even considered how I would get into an MRI scan and not die. I know, I'm a wuss. And frankly, we both can't be down at the same time. I mean, we've always kind of laughed about that. It's like, we don't have kids. We live with each other. If I'm having a bad day, she needs to be having a good day. If I'm sick, she needs to be well, and vice versa. I mean, it's our pact that we take care of each other, and so we can't both be down at the same time. And we laugh all the time when both of us forget something, like, who's the one that was in charge of remembering today? We both can't do this at the same time. So she needs this surgery, and she's going to need a lot of care after. And she also has issues in her lower back, and something's going to have to be done with that at some point. So my pain in my neck and shoulder just have to continue to stay on the back burner at this point. We have no other choices. And here is the great news about our little phrase, with God's help, I will. So I continued to say this in the last few weeks. God help me, help me rise to the occasion. All those pleadings that we do. And last week I said that I'm going to have the faith that I will be able to have what I need when I need it to help her. Those of you who may not know, I actually am horrible at math. I know this seems unrelated, but it's not. I'm really, really horrible at math. Even with a calculator, I can get it wrong. I failed the GRE and had to go into the graduate program on a provisional basis. I couldn't even get 1 C in anything I did in 2 years because I would be kicked out. And I had to take statistics and research and education all at the same time with all of those equations and all that math. And I knew when I signed up for those classes that term that this is going to be the thing. I know if I don't fail them, which I expected to fail them because I can't do math, this would be the thing that got me kicked out of graduate school. However, I got a B as in boy, on both of those exams to pass those courses. No, I didn't cheat. And I have no idea how I did it, except for I explain it as it was a divine download. God gave me what I needed because I was supposed to get this graduate degree in counselor education and research. That's what I was supposed to do, is get that master's. So I do have history of believing that God will have us do what we need to do, and we will have what we need when we need it. And that has given me some solace that even though I don't see how we're going to get through this, and even though I don't see how I'm going to do it, because one, I'm not a nurse, and two, I'm injured. And yet I spent 4 hours pruning, lifting things up over my head, tugging, hauling. And today, oh, beloveds, I'm hurting. I'm hurting bad. And yet, Chewy delivered a big dog food bag to my door, and I have to go shopping, and I still have to haul stuff. And yet, I know I'll be able to do it because with God's help, I will. And I know that I have my besties on speed dial. There are things that I'm going to start asking for that I haven't needed to ask for because Beloved could do it. I'm going to ask for things because I'm needed this time, and Beloved can't do it. So not only does God, I think, give us what we need when we need it, but when what we need is something that may not be healing. The healing part may be stop trying to act like you can do everything yourself. The healing part might be to have you rely on people when really you don't rely on people ever because you're afraid or you're embarrassed or you don't want people to know that you can't do everything. I think that from the religious trauma that I have, and probably from some reactive attachment stuff that's going on with me, I haven't relied on people very often. And my Beloved is the first one that I was ever even able to cohabitate with. All through college, I had to have a single room. I did not like rooming with other people. I could not take that close proximity with people I didn't know. I have never really trusted people, and it takes a lot for me to feel safe. And people will say they're there for me, and I haven't always totally believed it. I'm getting better at that, by the way, but my Beloved is the first one that I had put my trust and my belief in. So this is an opportunity to really dive into, with God's help, I will do what? At first I'm thinking I will be the person that my wife needs me to be while she's going through surgery. God doesn't usually have such a narrow vision of things, I don't think. So it may also be, as I ruminate this morning, it may also be that I'm being called to open up my vulnerability and my resistance to need people and allow myself to know that I need people and to watch God provide for me through them. So, beloveds, when you're in crisis, when you're feeling like you need to be a turtle and close yourself off, perhaps with God's help, we will all be able to reach out, embrace, and know that God is providing for us in amazing ways that we could never predict. So when somebody offers you something, don't just discount it and think that you don't need any help. God's help might be the next knock on your door or the next phone call you get. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today, for listening, for sharing, and supporting this podcast. If you want to see more information and links to connect with me, go to the Gay with God show page at empoweredmidge.podbean.com. When you go there, you can see ways to connect with the show by becoming a guest. You will also find a link for your own complimentary session. If you're feeling stuck, if you feel like you need support in your coming out faith journey, or even any kind of resiliency issues, and the way we may be feeling about this era that we're living through, you can have a free session and then we can talk about what to do next. There's also a link there to purchase my memoir, Gay with God, Reclaiming My Faith, Honoring My Story. By purchasing the memoir from my website, gaywithgod.com, you'll be able to get a signed copy if that's something you want to do. Check out our Facebook group, Gay with God, where we do a monthly Zoom group entitled My Faith Journey. If you need support to help you through your coming out and/or faith journey, this is a great place to start because we are definitely connected to each other and we welcome new members and we talk about not only those things, but we also talk about just life. And sometimes the topic is just talking about life and how we're all getting through it. If you are listening to this podcast and are questioning whether you can be gay and be in a relationship with the God of your understanding, if you identify as LGBTQIA+, are not even sure if you are gay, God has always been within you. Even when you didn't know it, you have always been gay with God. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned to see how you can join the Gay with God community. And as always, you are loved. I want to invite you to become a part of the Gay with God community. How can you do that? Stay connected by messaging me your thoughts and comments in the comment section under the downloads of the show on the Gay with God show page. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen and share so we can increase our community outreach and be a light to those who are struggling to claim their faith. Consider being a sponsor so I can highlight your service in our community. We are all worthy of respect and a relationship with the God of our understanding. I want to thank you in advance for supporting this podcast. Together, we as a community will keep this show visible and our community stronger. Deep gratitude to my friend Tim McClendon of Tim McClendon Music for allowing me to use an excerpt from Interlude 4, a song found on his CD entitled Sundance.